Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crypto Brain, because right now there is every unusual atmosphere building around Toshi, and investors across the crypto market are beginning to pay very close attention because Cynthia Lummis has suddenly become part of the wider conversation surrounding the project. And whenever political or regulatory names begin circulating around a crypto asset, the market rarely stays calm for very long. Because crypto has never moved purely on technical analysis or fundamentals, it has always moved on psychology. Narrative, momentum, and speculation, and at this moment all three appear to be colliding around Toshi at the exact same time, which is why many holders are beginning to feel that something much larger may quietly be developing behind the scenes. And if you have spent enough time inside the crypto market, then you already understand that the most dangerous phase is not always the crash itself, but the uncertainty that arrives before it, because uncertainty creates emotional pressure, and emotional pressure creates volatility. And volatility is what keeps traders glued to their screens, refreshing charts every few minutes, trying to determine whether the market is preparing for collapse or preparing for reversal. And right now, that exact atmosphere appears to be spreading rapidly across the Toshi community, because social media discussions are accelerating at an aggressive pace. And the more these conversations grow, the more attention it begins attracting. And in crypto, attention is never a small thing, because attention attracts liquidity, attention attracts speculation, and sometimes attention will one eye. So not to push an asset directly into the spotlight almost overnight. What makes this entire situation even more interesting is that the market now appears completely divided, because one side believes this growing uncertainty is a warning sign, while the other side believes this could be the exact type of emotional pressure that historically creates violent reversals and unexpected momentum shift. Because if there is one thing crypto history has repeatedly proven, it is that the market often moves hardest when the majority becomes emotionally uncomfortable, because that is usually the moment fear reaches its highest level, while smart money quietly observes the situation rather than reacting emotionally to every headline. And this is precisely why many experienced traders are now monitoring Toshi extremely closely, because whether people realize it or not, narratives move faster than fundamentals in this industry. And once a narrative gains enough momentum, it can completely shift market sentiment before reality has even had time to catch up. And that is why the conversations surrounding Cynthia Lummis are creating so much psychological tension, because traders understand that political credibility inside crypto can influence sentiment very quickly, especially during a period where regulation remains one of the most sensitive topics in global finance. At the same time, another important factor cannot be ignored, and that is the emotional behavior of retail investors during uncertainty, because retail traders rarely struggle during periods of clarity. They struggle during periods of confusion, because confusion creates hesitation, time creates fear, and fear creates irrational decision-making. And right now, confusion surrounding Toshi appears to be growing by the hour, because every new discussion, every new social media thread, and every new narratives seems to add another layer of speculation to an already tense market environment, and as speculation increases, volatility usually follows, because narratives in crypto never travel alone. They carry fear, hope, expectation, momentum, and emotional at the same time, and once those forces begin combining together, the market can become extremely unpredictable very quickly, which is why some traders are now asking every serious question: is this simply another short-lived social media panic cycle, or is the market quietly preparing for a much larger move that could completely catch the wider Toshi community off guard? Because one thing is becoming increasingly clear: the more uncertainty grows around Toshi, the harder it becomes for the market to ignore it. Now, here is where the situation becomes even more psychologically interesting, because history has shown that the largest emotional reactions inside crypto usually happen when investors begin believing the story is already over. Because once fear reaches its highest point, many retail holders begin emotionally disconnecting from the asset, while experienced traders start paying even closer attention. And that is why some analysts believe the current atmosphere surrounding Toshi may not simply be about fear at all, but rather about attention, because in this industry, attention is one of the most valuable currencies in existence. And once an asset dominates discussions across social media, the probability of increased liquidity and stronger volatility rises dramatically. And whether that volatility moves upward or downward is exactly what the market is now trying to figure out, because uncertainty creates both panic sellers and future believers at the exact same time. And throughout crypto history, both groups have always existed during the market's most explosive phases. What also makes this situation particularly fascinating is the timing, because the crypto market is already entering a phase where traders are becoming increasingly veto anything connected to regulation, politics, or institutional involvement. And whenever those three themes begin colliding around a smaller asset, the emotional reaction from the market tends to become even stronger, because traders immediately start imagining future possibilities, and once imagination enters the market, logic often begins taking a back seat. And that is why the Toshi conversation's now far larger than a normal short-term trend, because people are no longer simply watching price action, they are watching behavior sentimentum, ocean and momentum holotonce. And the truth is, markets are rarely driven by certainty. They are driven by perception, and right now perception surrounding Toshi appears shifting extremely quickly. So the real question every investor now needs to ask themselves is whether this current wave of fear eventually fades away like countless other crypto narratives before it, or whether this becomes one of those rare moments where uncertainty unexpectedly transforms into massive attention and significant volatility, because crypto history has repeatedly shown that the market's biggest surprises often arrive precisely when the majority believes nothing important can happen anymore. And perhaps that is exactly why so many traders suddenly find themselves unable to look away from Toshi right now. Now, if you enjoyed this update, make sure you leave your thoughts down below, because I genuinely want to know whether you believe this is simply temporary panic or the beginning of something much larger surrounding Toshi. And as always, if you are new here, make sure you subscribe to Crypto Brain, turn on notifications, and stay locked in, because in markets like these, the biggest opportunities often appear when emotions are running at their highest levels and nobody sees the full picture yet. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.